All right, and we are back for our third interview here in 2025 for the local elections here in Island County. We're done right now with our Oak Harbor um, City Council. Now we're moving on to South Whidbey School Board, and I have here Gwendy. Please say your last name for me again.
Gabelein.
Gabelein. We have Gwendy Gabelein, who is running for South Whidbey School Board Director, position 5, the at-large position. And we are so excited to have you. So thank you. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, thanks. I participated in the League of Women's Voters event, so this is my second day in a row being on a camera, being asked questions. So I'm
that's the best part of campaigning, isn't it?
I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
All right. So first question I'm going to open up with is, what made you decide to run for school board?
Oh boy. Well, that one's the short answer. I'll give you the short answer. So I've been attending these school board meetings and workshops since my son was in kindergarten. He just started 9th grade. So I've been going for quite a while. I have one son that graduated from our district. So, and I'm a proud graduate myself. So I've got a lot of history, as well as my father graduated from the district. So I've been going to these meetings. I've been showing up, asking questions, putting the heat on, trying to, make sure that they know that there's people listening and there needs to be some accountability. And so the reason why I ran was I would get up and say, hey, it'd be great if we talked about this subject, or this is an area of concern in our community. And I would reach out personally to the board members. And in all those years of all the things I've asked to be added to the agenda, how many of those items do you think got added?
Zero.
So that is kind of why I was like, all right, maybe I will have a little bit more ability to get community input if I am seated at the table. So that was kind of one main reason. I'm also a proud mom of a neurospicy kiddo. He's high functioning autistic. So that is an area in our district that's really been neglected and could have a lot of improvements if given the right attention and having the right conversations. So that's another area that's very dear to me. I remember one of the first meetings I attended when my son was in kindergarten. I had one of the paras come up and say, thank you so much for saying something. They did not feel they could say something for whatever reason. They could not speak up on their behalf. And that told me that we had a lot of work to do. And I navigated that as a parent receiving services through the sped ed department and figuring out what that looks like, what our rights were, what IEP meetings were or should be. And I've made a lot of adjustments over the years, and I've learned a lot about the rights of students. So that also brought a lot of passion, because we have someone on our board that works in the sped ed field. And I think I've heard her mouth the word sped ed maybe a handful of times over the period of 9 years. So there's really not been focus on that. And every district struggles in that area, not only just with funding, but just kind of really navigating how we support our students and our families that are receiving services. So that's another reason I ran. Those two main ones, just getting community voice and, getting some support around the sped ed, that's kind of the top two. I've got 4 more years with my kiddo. I want our district to become a better district. So that's another huge reason I wanted to run, because I know we're capable of so much better, and our students deserve that. Our staff deserve that. And a lot of people say, the concept of a healthy school, healthy district also makes for a healthy community. So I believe that really kind of draws into our community. And so improving our schools could have a benefit to not just if you have a kiddo in the district, but as a community member. I mean, you're paying taxes. So right. You should want things to be good when people come to buy houses. What's one of the questions they ask? How are the school districts? How are the schools? So it's a huge, it impacts so many elements of our community. So I think it really needs an individual that can really devote that much time and has a passion for it, because that's what it will take to get things done.
All right, perfect. Yeah, no, I myself have a son who who's high functioning autistic. And I know all about everything that you said, the IEP meetings, and we learned a lot as well. We also learned that in some cases, that may not be the case with your school district, but it might be. They aren't following the law. They are taking money that is dead, and it's been, given for because he has, autism, so he has money for the special needs that he has, and they put it somewhere else. And so, which is not legal, but it sometimes happens. And none of them were taken up. Can you give me an example of a few that come to mind?
Well, the first one, the most recent one, and I hadn't realized how long I'd been asking specifically for this, was prior to the pandemic. We had our SPED Ed committee. I call it SPED Ed. It's so valuable to our district. So it allowed parents like myself to come meet with the providers, meaning speech, PT, OT, and just kind of navigate solutions, is between the two. Outside of an IEP meeting, if you've been with an IEP meeting, you do have a period of time where you can discuss concerns and issues, but then to discuss it on a broader sense in a room where other people are like, hey, yeah, my student's also struggling with that. It was an amazing time for parents to come together and really connect with one another and support their students, and also work with the staff. Obviously, everything kind of stopped. So I would get up during my 5 minutes and say, it'd be really great if we could get that SPED Ed committee started back up. We've got new families coming in the district that are now navigating what that looks like, IEPs and mainstream classroom versus getting supports. And it'd be great if we could get that committee started back up. And I couldn't even tell you how many times I've gotten up there and talked about that during the 5 minutes. I talked to individual recently at one of her meetings. I got up, did my 5 minutes. It'd be great if we get the SPED Ed committee back. And at the end of the meeting, she's like, I think I'm going to make that a priority that we get the SPED Ed committee. I about fell out of my chair. After the meeting, I was like, thank you so much for making this a priority. I think this will really benefit the district as a whole. And she goes, oh, absolutely. And I just, and one of the board members, Brooke, he was like 5 years. So I thought maybe 2, I guess 2. Apparently it was longer than that. But I couldn't understand why why that wasn't something that would be discussed or added. It didn't take any time of his, didn't take any more resources. It was a benefit to our district. So I was like, why would it take someone 5 years?
So what are you noticing since, with the school board right now, what are you noticing seems to be their main primary focus? What are they focusing on? What are they doing that's important to them?
From my opinion, this is outside perspective. It seems a lot of times they're just checking boxes. And I mean, when I say checking boxes, I mean like academic scores. Anytime they talk about academic scores, well, hey, we're box, right? We're doing what other districts are doing, so we're good, right? So basically, good is the equivalent of whatever else anyone else is doing. How about the good is just doing better than what we're currently doing? Like, how can we be better than what we're currently doing instead of just comparing ourselves to other districts? That seems to be a pretty big focus, whether it be academics, whether it be to just do a quick comparison. Well, the other districts are struggling with that too, so we're good since we're struggling with that. And to me, that's kind of a cop-out. That's kind of a, we're not going to worry about that because, we have other things to look at. I don't see that as an okay way to look at it. I think academic score is very similar to Gabelein and Oak Harbor, but that doesn't mean we can't be better. And that should be.
Yeah, no, last I checked, they're doing pretty well on reading scores, but their math scores, and so that's something that can definitely be improved on. So one of the other questions that I wanted to bring up is a lot of what the school board has to do is deals with the budget approved upon.
Well, first thing, transparency. The budget is kind of one of those things I would say every district is struggling with right now in different areas. We have a new gentleman that does the budget now. We had Mr. Pullman, we now have Mr. Field, and both very nice individuals, nice gentlemen. And what I've been disappointed on is that this year and last year, we kind of have dipped into our I call it backup budget, our fund budget. So that to me tells us we're not being good stewards of our funds. I mean, these are public funds. This is not this is good stewards of that. And Andrea brought that up at the conversation last night for the League of Women Voters, and she's like, we knew this 8 or 9 years ago. We knew that we were going to run into the red. We weren't really supposed to go back and forth per se during this. It was more just from our viewpoint. It wasn't a debate format. But I did comment on that because I said, right there tells us that we knew that we needed to be doing something differently. We knew we should have been looking at our budget and going, okay, this is the forecast. It doesn't look pretty. What can we do? Because just sitting back and going, okay, we'll dip in for a little bit and, we'll be all right. And oddly enough, I remember one of those conversations. I want to say it's the one that she's referring to because I've been to so many meetings, but and Damian Green was on the board at the time, and they were talking about the budget. It was during one of their July finance meetings, which most people find boring, and I'm one of those numbers people, so I'm like, okay, this is intriguing. And they said, well, we know we're going to go into the red. They knew that health insurance costs were going to be going up for the district, and their fallout was over the next 5 years, they projected that some of the higher paid, long-standing teachers were going to retire. So that's how they were going to, quote unquote, balance things out.
Wow.
Well, to them,
they didn't retire.
No, they also didn't see the pandemic coming. Right. That was prior to the pandemic. So that was kind of concerning. So when I hear things in meetings that are shocking or that catch me off guard, I'll raise my hand. I'll say, can I just ask a clarifying question? Are you basing your 5-year projection on the hope or the idea that we're going to balance things out when we have upper paid teachers retire? And they said, yeah, it will all balance out. And I can remember Damian and we still kind of joke about it. Like, wow, I don't want them balancing my checkbook. Like that to me that's like going to a car dealer and saying, in 5 years, I'm going to be making an extra $50,000. So I'd like to buy that car right now, today. It just, right. You don't, and this is
not a good idea.
So we really need to be even more responsible with these funds. So that was a huge concern. So I'd love to sit down and just pull the budget apart and figure out, okay, where is our area? What I was happy to hear is the new gentleman. He's gonna kind of project it a little bit more cautiously this year. It is based on pupil, of course, as far as how much money comes in. That's a huge aspect. So I was happy to hear that. So we'll kind of see what that looks like next year if we end up having to dip back into our backup budget, if you will. To keep the lights on. So they borrowed $500,000 this year to keep the lights on. They do not project having to use that full amount, but it was kind of a buffer. But it's just, to me, that's a little too close. I think they had projected using 99.8% of their budget at the last meeting, and they still haven't gotten all the bills for utilities and just basic things that come up typically a month after. So that's a little concerning. We are seeing, it looks like consistent overspending. So that's something that you're hopefully going to be able to tackle if elected. Yes.
So we are closing in on our time here, but I want to ask you if anyone wants to jump in and support your campaign, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, that's a great question. As far as getting a hold of me, you can check out my website, Gwendy for SWSD.com. I also have a Facebook, Gwendy for SWSD. So you can find me there. I don't tweet, and I don't. Technology is probably an area I'm constantly working on improving. But yeah, they can find me on Facebook. They can find my website. I'm pretty easy to find. Redheaded Gabelein. You can pretty easily find those on the island and track me down. And I'll be at all the meetings. And that's typically my biggest push for everyone is just come to the meetings, get informed, get the information directly from the school board, not from the South Whidbey rumor, not from your neighbor, but from the board meetings themselves, and ask your questions. We need to put the heat on a little bit and make them accountable. And if elected, that's exactly what people can expect from me is accountability, transparency, honesty. That's a huge element right now. So yeah, I'd appreciate people reaching out. I appreciate people's vote. We can make our district a pretty amazing district, but it's going to take some work. So.
All righty. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And anyone who's interested in getting a hold of her, I'm going to put her links to her website and her Facebook on the comments section of this video when it airs. So thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you. So I hope I can get you back on election day. Because I like to talk to the candidates, see how they're feeling on election day, and then we'll see what happens. So hopefully we can get you back.
All right. That sounds great. Thanks for the time to chat. I appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you.